A very good evening and a very warm welcome to the Buddhist Mahavihara's Facebook page. And we are here live at our Dhammadana series, our weekly Dhammadana series. And this evening we have, in conjunction with our Vesak month, we have a very distinguished professor. This professor has joined our Dhammadana series. I think the last 2 months he was here, and this will be his third appearance at the Dhammadana series. With a lot of pleasure, I would now like to introduce Professor G. Sumanapala to join us in the studio. Good evening, Professor,
Good evening.
and welcome to Dhammadana series. And this evening, you'll be talking about the vision and mission of Buddhism. For those of you who are not familiar with our professor, let me just quickly read his profile so that you have understanding of who our professor is. Professor G.D. Sumanapala was a senior professor and the chair of the Department of Pali and Buddhist Studies at the University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka from 1981 to 2017. He obtained his BA honors, MA, and his PhD from the same university. In addition to his services at the University of Kelaniya, he has also served 1 year as director and lecturer at the Vikrama Arachi Ayurvedic Institute, University of Kelaniya, and 7 years as the director of the Postgraduate Institute of Pali and Buddhist Studies, also at the University of Kelaniya. He has also passed the Royal Pandit degree in Pali, Sinhala, and Sanskrit. He has participated and has presented papers in Buddhist Ayurvedic psychiatry and counseling at more than 70 international seminars held in various countries. He has published more than 30 books and nearly 100 research articles in Sinhala and English, covering the subjects Pali, Sanskrit, Buddhist philosophy and culture, Ayurveda, astrology, and research methodology. He also has published Pali and Sanskrit poems on Buddhist philosophy. He is a member of the board of directors of the Sanchi University of Buddhist Indic Studies in India and an executive council member of the International Association of Buddhist Universities in Bangkok, Thailand. At present, he serves as the course coordinator and member of the council and the dean of the Faculty of Traditional Systems of Medicine at the Nagananda International Institute for Buddhist Studies in Kelaniya, Sri Lanka. So that is our professor's profile, and that's quite a lengthy profile, and we're very glad that professor has accepted our invitation this evening to give his uh, Dhamma knowledge and share his Dhamma knowledge with us. So before we start on professor's Dhamma sharing this evening, professor would actually like to highlight some of the books or reference material that you can actually source from when you are listening to his talks, and he will explain further about these books that he has published over the many years. Let me bring on the books for you. Now, these were the books that Professor will make reference to while he's giving this evening's Dhamma sharing, and he will explain a bit more on these books as we go along. without much ado, I would now like to invite Professor Sumanapana to start this evening's Dhamma sharing. Professor?
Okay, thank you. Okay, dear friends and dear venerable sirs, first of all, I am very thankful to the Buddhist Society for inviting me to join with this series of lectures, Dhamma sharing. And first of all, I am very thankful to the President, Leslie Tilak, our friend, for inviting me for this lecture. And also, I am very thankful to Venerable Pussalle Vinita, who introduced the President to me. And also, last time also I mentioned at the beginning, Venerable Kirinde Dhammananda and his disciples, who are rendering a great service for the propagation of Buddhism in Malaysia as well as in the other countries through Mahavihara. And also, I should say something about the books that shown on the screen, because many people ask me when I am presenting some new ideas. Actually, I am always trying to give some new interpretations to Buddhist teachings, because Buddhism was preached to the people in the 6th century BC by the Buddha. Then actually the main theories are same. That means dependent co-origination, 3 characteristics, 4 noble truths, noble eightfold path, etc. These fundamental teachings are very same. They are universal. But however, we find in the Tripitaka and in the other commentarial literature how they have been applied to the society. That is called Buddhist culture, right? How these principles have been applied to the contemporary societies. Then it is the duty of the scholars to apply those teachings, those fundamental teachings to the modern society, right? Therefore, we cannot always repeat the suttas and commentarial explanations, because they were applicable to the societies at that time. And when missionary groups went to other countries, to China, Japan, Korea, Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, etc., they interpreted the fundamentals of Buddhism in order to match with those social conditions, right? But today we are not doing this properly. We are just repeating the suttas and commentarial explanations, but those details are related to those societies. Therefore, I think today in the modern society, the Buddhist scholars' duty is to uh, interpret the fundamentals of Buddhism in order to match with the modern social order, right? Therefore, my ideas may be very different from others, because they are mostly new ideas. For example, last time I interpreted Mangala Sutta, but I have never seen anyone doing that. That means, we have to think of the fundamentals included in the suttas, and we have to explain how to apply them, right? That according to that famous teaching, I think last time also I mentioned, technique without philosophy is blind, and philosophy or theory without technique is empty. Therefore, this technique or the practical aspect of Buddhism is very important. Then, if you consider my interpretation of Mangala Sutta under 7 steps, then it can be easily applied to the life style of people, right? Therefore, some people always ask where we can read your interpretations, right? That is why I asked President Leslie Tilak to show the cover page and the title page of pages of my publications, right? Then I think we have shown about 10 such books. Then all these new ideas are available in these books, but they have, some of them have published, I think most of them have been published in Singapore, the Buddhist library. They are available, some of them are available at the Buddhist library. One is published in Hong Kong. But however, we have some copies with us in Sri Lankan bookshops, as well as personally we also have some stock. Therefore, if you need those books, you can communicate with President Leslie Tilak, and he will inform me. Then I can send them to the relevant addresses. Okay. Then that is all at the beginning. And this time I suggested the President a new title. It is the Vision and Mission of Buddhism. Right? Then why I selected this topic? Because I have written on this in my publications. You know that according to the modern world, one of the most famous, most popular subject is management. Then you know this concept of management is available for the first time in the Buddha's teachings. But their main tenets are available in the suttas. But we have to interpret them in accordance with the modern social order. Right? Then you know, according to the management system, there are organizations or institutes, thousands of millions of institutes are there in the world, organizations. Then this Mahavihara Association also is one of those organizations. Any organization, any institute will exist for a long period of time if there is a proper management system. That's the thing. Then we can say that Buddhist order is a well-organized institute, right? Then it has been lasted without breaking for over 2,500 years. Then we can say the oldest proper organization in the world, the recorded history in the world, is Buddhist order. It is prevailing even today and in the future. Now it is spreading further and further towards all the countries in the world. Then if someone asks why it is prevailing in that way, because its management system is very perfect, right? Then suppose that if we think of our personal life has three main aspects: physical aspect, mental aspect, and social aspect. Then you know, in order to be satisfied with our personal life, there should be a proper management of the physical body and also mind. Mental aspect also should be well organized, well managed, and the social connections also should be maintained with the proper management. Then only our life becomes successful. Therefore, and also, you know, there are some principles of management in the modern management system. For example, planning. Any organization or life should have a planning. That's the first thing. That's why I presented the planning for Mangala Sutta, right? We have to make plans for the discourses in order to match with the modern society. It is a planning. If there is a planning, then we can act upon it. We can apply it to the society. Otherwise, you know, if we are learning only the 38 factors of progress under the Mangala Sutta, what to do? Just only 38 factors, right? That is all. Then Four Noble Truths, etc. All these are Noble Eightfold Path, right? These are factors. But these factors should be well planned. Then only we can activate them in the society. Then that is the planning is the first thing. Then organization, right? Planning, organization. Organization means delivering the services to the other members, right? Planning, organization, direction. Number 3 is direction. Planning, organization, uh, planning, organization, staffing, right? Staffing. Staffing means appointments to various positions, right? Staffing. And directorship, right? Direction. Direction includes another 4 facts: leadership, motivation, communication, and coordination. All these aspects are related to the direction. And number 5 is control. Then in the modern management system, these 5 aspects are explained. All these are available in the Buddhist order, right? If we compare these aspects with the Sangha society, evolution of the Sangha society in the history, we can identify all these factors are put into practice. But in a short lecture like this, within about 1.5 hours or 2 hours, we cannot explain all these factors, all these aspects of management. But I selected only 2 aspects. That means in addition to this plan, right, these aspects, these 5 aspects, right, that means planning, organization, staffing, direction, and control. In addition to these, one institute or one's life should have 2 things. What are those 2? Vision and mission. Vision means the plan. That means what we are, what is our understanding, right? What is our understanding of the aims and objectives of our life or our institute? What for we are living? What for we are conducting these things? What for we are doing this organization? What for we are conducting this institute, etc.? What is the purpose of life? Why we are conducting our life? That is vision. And mission means the practice. What we have to do, right? What we are doing to achieve those purposes, right? Indicated by the vision. That is the purpose. And to achieve that purpose, we have to work. We have to continue a process of services or activities. Those activities are explained on the mission, right? Then these 2 aspects are common to all kinds of organizations, institutes in the world today. But remember, if we are concerned about our own personal life, if someone asks, what is the main problem? What are the problems that you have in your life? Then one may say, oh, I have physical problems, I have mental problems, I have social problems, I have spiritual problems. These are the 4 aspects related to life. They are explained in the Dhammapada. Arogya Paramalabha, physical well-being, is essential for the people. Santutti Paramang Dhanam, mental well-being, it is essential. Vissasa Paramanyati, social well-being, right? And Nibbanam Paramang Sukhang, spiritual well-being, right? I have interpreted this in my publications for the first time, right? This stanza. then actually these aims are very relative to the purposes explained in the WHO World Health Organization. They also emphasize these four facts. They say that complete health can be achieved by physical well-being, mental well-being, social well-being, and spiritual well-being. But spiritual well-being is not added yet, right? Buddhism says that also should be included because all people are subject to birth, decay, disease, and death. Then, when the life ends with the death, then we have no refuge, no expectation. We don't know what will happen. Therefore, spiritual well being explains what to do for that. That is why Buddhism introduces Nibbana, the final realization of the truth. Then we can make an end to the unending suffering, right? Then we have spiritual well being also can be achieved through Buddhism. But for this, to achieve this, we have two kinds of organizations, two kinds of institutes among the Buddhist followers. One is the community of Sangha. It includes bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, right? Monks and nuns. The other is the organization of the lay people. They also have two groups, Upasaka and Upasika, male devotees and female devotees, right? Then in the Sangha society also we have two groups, monks and nuns. In the lay society also we have two groups as male and female devotees, right? Then, we should have a vision, two visions. One vision for the Sangha society, another vision for the lay society. And also we should have a mission for the Sangha society and also a mission for the lay society, right? Vision and mission are two essential parts of any organization in the world. But Buddhism in the 6th century BC has explained very clearly these two aspects, vision and mission of the Sangha society, vision and mission of the lay society. Then today I am going to explain these two aspects. Other aspects of management system can be explained later, not today, because it's a vast subject. Actually, we have introduced one course in Buddhism, Buddhist concept of management, right? It is, we are teaching that. Then as far as let us discuss first the vision and mission of the Sangha society. Vision statement and mission statements are very short. They are not too long, right? Even in modern organizations, vision statement and mission statements are very short. Buddha also used the short sentences to explain the vision and mission of these two societies. Let us take first the vision of the Sangha society. It is mentioned in the Mahavagga Pali, right? One of the texts of the Vinaya Pitaka. Buddha addressed the first 60 arahants, right? And before that, he introduced the system of ordination to become a monk. Even today, when a lay person wants to become a monk, he prepares the robes, etc., the essential things for a monk, and approaches to a senior monk and says like this. Sabba dukkha nissarana nibbana satchi karanathaya imang kasavam gahetva pabbhajetamam bante anukampam upadaya. That is the vision. O Venerable Sir, having taken these robes, imang kasavam gahetva, having taken this robe, yellow robe, please ordain me. Please give me ordination. For what? In order to make an end to the mass of suffering. Right? Please ordinate me, or please give me ordination as a monk or nun in order to make an end to the mass of suffering. Suffering means birth, decay, disease, and death. That is the vision of the Sangha. Right? They become monks and nuns with this mission. Right? Then that is the realization of Nibbana. Because to make an end to the mass of suffering, one should eliminate or destroy craving by following the middle path or noble eightfold path and attain Nibbana. Or, in other words, one should follow morality, concentration, and wisdom, right? Then they can attain Nibbana, then they will not be reborn again to suffer with birth, disease, decay, and death, right? Then that is the vision, to attain Nibbana, right? To make an end to the mass of suffering. Then what is the mission? In the Mahavagga Pali, Buddha has mentioned addressing the first 60 arahants, including the 5 ascetics and the 55, the Prince Yasakula, and 55 friends of him, right? And altogether there were 60 arahants, right, in the world. Then Buddha addressed them. They have perfected, right? They have, all of them have had attained arahantship. That means, it is Buddha's advice that attanameva patamang patirupe nivesaye atanya manusasaya. First of all, one should establish himself in a proper position and then advise others to go along that path, right? That is Buddha's advice. One should be an exemplary character in order to advise others. Then, advise others means mission. What we have to do in the mission of the Sangha, it is very clearly mentioned. Charata bhikkave charikam. Oh, go forth. Oh, monks, right? Go forth. Don't stay in one place. Go forth. Actually, the meaning of the term pabbajja. Pabbajja means ordination. Buddhist ordination is called pabbajja. It is derived from pa-vaj. Pa is the prefix, vaj is the root. It means going forward, right? Going forward. Then Buddha also advises, charata bhikkave charikam. Go forth, O brethren. What for? Bahujana hitaya, bahujana sukhaya. For the happiness of many people, for the benefit of many people. Bahujana hitaya, bahujana sukhaya. Attaya hitaya sukhaya deva manussanam. For the benefit and happiness of deities and human beings. Not only human beings, even the deities, right? Then they have to go forward for the sake of others' happiness and benefit. Then, deseta bhikkave dhamma. Then while going forth, what you have to do? Deseta bhikkave dhamma. O monks, preach dhamma. Deseta bhikkave dhamma. Which kind of Dhamma? Adi Kalyanam, Majjokayasana Kalyanam, Paryosana Adi Kalyanam, Majje Kalyanam, Paryosana Kalyanam. Your teaching should be good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Right? So complete good Dhamma should be. Adi Kalyanam, Madhye Kalyanam, Paryosana Kalyanam, Satham Sabhyanjanam. It should be meaningful as well as it should be pleasant. Sabhyanjan should be pronounced well, right? And also, not only pronunciation of the sounds, but also it should be meaningful. That means those are the two aspects of a language, sounds and meanings. Both should be well organized, right? Sattang Sabhyanjanam. Kevala Paripurnam. It should be 100% complete. Kevala Paripurnam. Parisuddham Brahmacharyam Pakaseta. And pure way of life should be expressed. Then this is the mission for the monks. Very clear. Two short statements. First is Sabba Dukkha Nissarana Nibbana Satchikaranatthaya Imam Kasavang Gahetva Pabbhajetamam Bhante Anukampam Upadaya. Please, out of compassion, please give me ordination having taken these robes in order to make an end to the mass of suffering. That means to realize Nibbana. And mission for the monks is go forth. Don't stay in one place. Go forth from home to home, village to village, city to city, country to country, for the sake of many people, for the benefit of many people, for the sake and benefit of, for the happiness of many deities and human beings. And it is not mere wandering. Deseta bhikkave dhammang adi kalyanam majje kalyanam paryosana kalyanam. Preach the Dhamma, which is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. And also Sathang Sabhyanjanam, which is meaningful and very pleasant to hear. Right? It should end out with the good qualities of sound and meaning. Right? Sathang Sabhyanjanam, Kevala Paripurnam Parisuddham Brahmacharya. It should be 100% complete, and it should include pure way of life. You have to express such a Dhamma. Then very clear, the vision and mission of the Buddhist monks and nuns are clearly indicated here in the Mahavagga Pali. Right? Now we turn to the vision and mission of the lay people. That is very relevant to the listeners of this Dhamma series. Right? Then we have to understand this life as males and females. We are being born in this world. We are leading a life. Then it should have some purposes, right? Without a purpose, we cannot lead the life. Otherwise, no aim of life. That means there should be a vision. There should be a good vision for a lay person, males and females devotees. What is that I have so far explained? I have already explained that. In the Dhammapada, Buddha has preached Arogya Paramalabha. You should achieve the physical well-being. That means, it is very important. Because, if your physical body is not healthy, what happens? You cannot do anything else. You have to take medicine. You have to consult the doctors. Always. Whole life is miserable if you are suffering with many diseases, communicable and non-communicable. Nowadays, you see, throughout the world, many people are suffering with many diseases, including COVID-19, right? These are pandemic, right? Then you see, in ancient times also people had to suffer. For example, in the first century AD in Sri Lanka, there was a famine prevailing about 16 years, right? People as well as the Buddhist monks were suffering from that pandemic. But remember, some monks died. Buddhism was transmitted by a verbal tradition. There were no books. Buddha's teachings were not written on books or all leaves. What happened? Some monks died. That means, if someone memorize can if someone's memory is full of one book, it means that when the monk dies, whole the book is lost. Therefore, the Buddhist monks at the time, with many difficulties, some of them left for India. Some, however, bearing the problems, remained here. Then, after the famine was over, the monks who went to India and came back, then they compared the memories about the Buddha's teachings. Almost all the teachings were very same. That means they, with much courage, they continued the recitations day by day and preserved the Buddha's teachings. That is why, in a very bad period, this has been done. Then they assembled together at Aloka Vihara in Sri Lanka and committed to writing on ola leaves for the first time the Buddha's teachings. That is why we have Buddha's teachings on ola leaf manuscripts even today. That is why, the Buddhist advice in a pandemic situation is that Khedo vipattisu patikriyana, if it is an uncontrollable disease or problem, we have no choice. We have no choice. Because if it cannot be controlled, then what to do? We have no option. Khedo vipattisu patikriyana tasmana dina pakatim bhajayya. Therefore, you should not be idle. You should not be discouraged. Right? Be vigilant. Be courageous. Tasmana dina pakatim bhajayya panyanu yatam viryang vadanti. There are two aspects in your personality to be developed. What are the two? Wisdom and courage. Courage is called in Buddhism virya. Wisdom, proper understanding of the world of experience. Virya, but it is translated into English as courage, effort, etc. But those translations do not give the proper meaning of the term virya. Please remember, virya means just it is not taking efforts. Because some people may think virya means always courageous, always working without end. No, that is not the way. Virya has been explained in our commentaries. Vidhina iraitabam. Vidhi means planning. There should be a planning and we have to act according to the plan. That is called virya. Then this meaning cannot be obtained through the English translations like effort, courage, etc. Enthusiasm. These are mere terms. They do not convey that. Therefore, understand wisdom and courage. It means wisdom should be there to plan, no? If any problem is there, any disease, we have to make a plan to eliminate it. Very wisely, it should be done. Then we have to follow those rules and regulations according to the plan. Nowadays, keeping distance, wearing the masks, washing hands, right? Uh, not going out of the houses and not not going to the assemblies, etc. These are the plannings, right? Then if we follow these planning made by wisdom, then such epidemics will not affect our life seriously. We can make an end to that suffering. That is our vision, right? Then physical well-being is very important. Nowadays, it has been further emphasized due to the worldwide epidemic COVID-19, right? And the second one is because if we lose the physical health, everything is lost. We cannot engage in any other task. Just we have to attend to our body to get rid of those illnesses. Therefore, it is a very good purpose in life. Everyone. Second one is Santutti Paramangdanam, mental well-being. Personality means there are two aspects, physical and mental. The physical aspect, according to Buddhism, represent only 1/5. That means, personality means 5 aggregates. Out of the 5, only one represents the physical body. Another 4 aspects, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, feeling, perception, disposition, and consciousness. These 4 aspects represent the mental aspect. Therefore, the broader area of the human personality is mind. Then mental well-being is very essential, right? We should well balance, well manage it, right? There are many things comes to the mind through our senses, through our experience, and those data may upset our mind sometimes. Sometimes they will calm down our mind. Therefore, we should be selective in order to get the data which come through the senses, eye, ear, nose, tongue, and skin. We have to safeguard, right? That is called mental well-being. This Dhamma series is propagated in order to confirm the mental well-being of the people, right? Then it is a great meritorious deed done by the Buddhist Mahavihara Buddhist Society and their officials, including the Buddhist monks. And now we turn to the third one, social well-being. Although we are physically okay, mentally okay, but we are living in a society. Society is well connected with our life. Without society, we cannot live. In the Sangha society also same. Sangha society also cannot exist without the lay society. Then this social well-being. I have explained in the Mangala Sutta, right? One should perform his duties towards the society. And also in the Sigala Sutta, I have also given a lecture on that in the second lecture. 6 directions are compared to the 6 groups of the society: parents, teachers, wives and children, friends and relatives, religious people, and the workers, right? That is the society. Then, if we perform our duties towards all those groups of the society, then our social well being is established. Otherwise, we have no good purpose in life. Then, third purpose is that. That means vision. First is physical well being, second is mental well being, third one is social well being. That is why these lecture series are continued throughout the world to establish the social well-being. It is one of the aims of that good deed, right? Because we got get together, right? That I am in Sri Lanka. Mr. Tilak, Leslie Tilak is in Malaysia. Some others are in other countries, right? Some monks who give lectures, they are from America, from England, from France, etc. But they all come together, join together through this Dhamma series. Then it is a very good social well-being. We promote through this social well-being, right? And finally, spiritual well-being, Nibbanam Paramang Sukham. Although we are physically well, mentally well, and socially well, but still all beings are subject to birth, decay, disease, and death. We cannot overcome these. We have to face with that. Then there also should be a remedy, should be a purpose to win this problem. Then Buddha presented Nibbana as the one and only solution to this problem of suffering. That means, everyone in the world, Nibbana is common to all because it means the destruction of craving. Then in whatever religion, right, in whatever country, if we want to make an end to the suffering, we should stop the birth, right? Otherwise, cannot. If we are being born, then we have to suffer. That is why in Kosala Samyutta there is one discourse, or it is a discussion with the King Kosala and the Buddha. Then King Kosala was very proud because of his wealth, ministers, army, and all other aspects. He was very proud. And one day he visited Buddha and told him, I have everything, right? See, my palace, very beautiful. No one else has a palace like this. And see, my advisors are well learned, world famous teachers. No one else has such a group of scholars and as advisors. Only I have. See my wife, Queen. She is one of the most beautiful, most intelligent, and belonging to a high caste. Then no one else has a queen like that. And see my wealth in the treasury, many gold, silver, etc. There are abundance of wealth and also crops. No one else has such a vast store the mass of wealth. And he says to the Buddha, See my subjects in India. All people love me, respect me. Then there is no any other person here who is respected like that. See my army. Army is very powerful. It can fight with any other country. Then he asked a question from the Buddha. What else I need? This was the question. What else I need? Everything I have. Then Buddha might have smiled little, but it is not mentioned in the sutta. But however, Buddha said to the king Kosala, okay, to your question, there is an answer. I will get it from yourself, Buddha said. Then king agreed. Okay, suppose that you are sitting on the throne in your big palace, surrounded by all these facilities. Suppose that 4 persons from 4 directions come running towards you and they fall down at your feet and tell you, "Oh great king," let us say tsunami, for example. Actually, in the sutta it is mentioned as a huge stone, 4 stones. But however, those 4 persons inform you that, "Oh great king, 4 tsunamis are coming from 4 directions, destroying everything." Right? Then Buddha asked the king, "Okay, now, O king, can you stop the tsunami by showing your palace?" King said, "No." "Can you stop the tsunami by showing your queen?" "No." "Can you stop the tsunami by sending your army?" "No, cannot." "Can you stop the tsunami by giving gold and silver from your treasury?" "Cannot." Then what is the use of those things on that moment? Oh, then the king Kosala replied that, "Oh Buddha, useless. All these things are useless in that moment." Then Buddha asked, what will be most useful on that occasion? Then the king thought for a moment and told the Buddha, "Oh Buddha, if I think over this matter, I can understand if I have done any meritorious deeds in my life, only that will be helpful on that occasion. Because when he dies, he will be reborn in a good place if he has done many meritorious deeds. Then only the meritorious deeds are useful when we face with such problems. Therefore, spiritual well-being is very, very essential for all people, not only for the monks and nuns, but lay people also should have this. Especially this vision or these purposes of life are given especially regarding the lay people, but anyway, it can be applied to the Sangha society also. Now, vision. This is the vision to achieve physical well-being, mental well-being, social well-being, and spiritual well-being. Now we turn to the mission of the lay people. Actually, this is only relevant to the lay people. I have selected one stanza from the Buddha's teaching. It says like this: Mata petti bharang jantung kule jetta pachainam sanhang sakila sambhasang pesu neyappahainam Macchera vinaye yuttang saccang koda vibhung narang tang ve deva tavating sa Ahu Sappurisa iti. Right? This is the stanza. This is the mission of the lay people. Mata Petti Bharam. That's the first one. We have to treat our parents because we are born here because of our parents. Then our duties towards the parent should be performed very well. That's the first mission of the lay people. Right? Mata Petti Bharam Jantum. Kule Jetta Pachainam. There are elders in our families. That means, old people, elders, right? Elders like uncles, maybe, etc., aunties, uncles, etc. They are the elders, right, of our families. We should respect them. That's the second one. Mata Petti Bharang Jantum, Kule Yetta Pachaina. The senior members of the families should be respected well. Why? Then we get the proper advice for our life from them. In modern society, this practice is very low, right? They are actually for the modern young generation address the elders with only two terms, uncle and auntie. But they are not uncles and aunties, all, no? There are different elders. We have to address them with their proper titles, right? That is, and also they will love us and they will advise us on relevant occasions, right? Respecting elders. Therefore, in modern society, sometimes elders say, oh, young generation will not respect them. But why? They should give an example from their life and they should give proper advice to the young generation. Then there will be a good connection with them, right? Then Mata Petti Bharang Jantum Kule Jetta Pachaina Sanhang Sakila Sambhasan. Sanhang Sakila Sambhasan. That means, we have to, the communication should be very pleasant and truthful, right? Pleasant words as well as truthful ideas should be communicated. That is another mission of the lay people. Then, we can maintain the harmony of the society if all of us are using very harmonious, peaceful, loving, and right sayings. Okay? True sayings. Should not lying, right? Should not lie. Then people will trust us. Then trustworthiness can be obtained by proper communication, right? Otherwise, people will not believe us, right? This communication is one of the very important factors to unite the society peacefully, right? You can understand if although I do not give examples, because of the bad communication, between the countries, between the peoples, and there arise many problems, right? Then Mata Petti Bharang Jantum Kule Jetta Pachainam Sandham Sakila Sambasam Pesuneyapahainam. Next one is we have to refrain from tail bearing. Pesuneya means tail bearing. Tail bearing means we hear one thing from one person and tell to the other in order to make problem between the two. And we hear one thing from one group and tell to the other group, and there arise problems between the two groups. Throughout the world we can see such things happening. It is also related to the communication, tail bearing, right? That is also one of our missionary works, not to refrain from tail bearing, right? Pesuneyyappaina. Majjera Vinaya Yuttam. Next one is we have to reduce greediness. That means we should not hoard up everything for ourselves. If we have additional things, we have to share it with others. In that way, we can reduce misery or greediness, greed, right? We should be very compassionate towards the others. Not only we ourselves should live in the world, because all beings have the right to live on this earth, right? I think you heard that there is a poem, I think, snake, water snake, right? In English poem, I think. As far as I can remember, one day person goes to the well to take some water, but there was a water snake has come to drink water. Then he thinks to chase away the water snake and get some water. But he thought, no, it is not good, because water snake came first. Therefore, I should wait until the water snake drinks water and go back. Again, he was waiting, and he thought, no, I should not wait for a water snake. I will kill it and I will get some water. No, he thought, no, it should not be good, because of another fact. Because according to the evolution of the order, the snakes appeared on earth before the human beings. Therefore, snakes have more right living on earth than the human beings. Therefore, he did not kill the serpent. He waited until the water snake drank and went away. This poem says that every being has the right to live on this earth, right? Therefore, we have to think, as Confucius has explained in China, you have to think of others as yourself. Whatever you like, others also will like. Whatever you don't like, other people also will not like. Therefore, don't do anything that you don't like to the others. It's a good example. Therefore, we have what we call fellow feeling, especially in this epidemic context. We should think of that. There are some people suffering very much due to the lack of facilities, food, etc. No? Therefore, we should think of that. Generosity. Generosity means reducing greediness or misery. Then, Machera Vinaye Yuktang Satyam. We have to tell the truth, right? Tell the truth. We should not be biased. It is, Satyena Kittim Pappoti. Buddha has said that if someone telling only the truth, he will be very famous in the society. Fame is also an essential requirement of life. All will respect him because he is telling the truth. Satyam. Koda Bhibung. We have to reduce the anger. Anger has created many problems in the society. There are people, they get angry very soon, right? No, should not be angry. Should be mindful of the situation, then we can prevent anger, right? Anger creates problems, conflicts among the people, right? It is our mission to not to be angry, right? And also it will create some mental problems, right? And Satyang Koda Bibung Narang Mata Petti Bharang Jantung Kule Jetta Pachainang Sanhang Sakila Sambasang Pesu Neyapahainang Machera vinaye yuttang satyang koda bidum narang. Tang ve deva tavatinsa ahu sappuriso iti. If someone is behaving according to these 7 aspects, then he is called a good person in Buddhist context, right? Then we should be good persons in the society. It is our mission. We should live as a good person. We should die as a good person. Then it is a mission. It is a benefit to the society. If we neglect all these good qualities, then our life is miserable, as well as we create problems, conflicts in the society also. And our next life also will be miserable. Then these are the missionary works of the lay people, or mission of lay life. Now I have explained the vision of Sangha society, the mission of Sangha society, and vision of lay people, lay society, and the mission of lay society. Very clear, very short, right? Another one can interpret these things in another way. It is okay. But this is my interpretation, right? Vision and mission. In order to build up a good personality, good institute, right? Good organization, we should have a clear vision and clear mission, right? Then Buddhism has presented a clear vision and mission for the monks and nuns, and a very clear vision and mission for the lay people. Then we can follow the other aspects of management, that means planning, organization, staffing, direction, and control under the direction, leadership, motivation, communication, and coordination. Those aspects are also explained in the Buddha's teachings. If there is another occasion, we will deal with that. For the time being, thank you very much for listening to my lecture. And if you have any question regarding this lecture, you can ask now, or any other question regarding Buddhism.
Thank you, Professor. That was an excellent sharing this evening. I think we really benefited from your experience. There are a few questions, Professor. I will put it onto the screen. Are you able to read that question, Professor?
Please read.
Okay. The modern living is very demanding, materialistic, and challenging, especially under current conditions. Many people, especially the young people, are lost and suffering. Please tell us how to cope with the situation, how we can face life and the future with more confidence. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, the main problem is, the the life is impermanent. We have to understand. It is a universal theory, right? We are subject to birth, decay, death, and sorrow and lamentation, right? Therefore, we should follow a middle path. That's the Buddha's advice. Then middle path, middle position will solve all the problems, right? That means, we should not go to the extremes, right? In every situation, there are extremes, right? That means going further and further and further in one line, right? No. Greed and hatred, these are the two ends, right? Greed. Because of greediness, we are chasing after the luxuries, right? And because of hate, we are conflicting with others, right? But those two aspects should be in a ordinary level in order to continue the life satisfactorily. But unknowingly, these two aspects are increased too much in our personality. Therefore, Buddha recommended to reduce greed and reduce hate. Right? There are many methods to do that. That giving, for example, giving is a good practice to reduce greed, and also helping the suffering people is another way to reduce hate. Then our mind become calm and quiet. Otherwise, what happens, if we are going along these two extremes, no happiness, right? Because although we try our best to achieve everything, no one will achieve everything in life. And if we are trying to eliminate all bad things from life, no one will be able to eliminate all bad things. That means at least, decay, old age, disease, death, we cannot stop, right? And also we cannot achieve all the things in the world, right? Therefore, it is an unending task if we are going along these two extremes. Therefore, we have to, that means, the the other effect, right? Byproduct of these two attempts is delusion, greed, hatred, and delusion. Delusion is a sub-product of these two attempts. Then always mind is in a constant delusion, because we cannot achieve these two purposes 100%. That is why Buddha says, in order to lead the happy, contented life, we have to reduce greed and hate, and in connection with these two reduced aspects, mind becomes calm and quiet. Then delusion also decreases. Then life is very happy, enjoyable, right? That is the way. That is the Buddhist path. It is called middle path. Yes. Any other question?
Well, there's another question here. I think this is Brother T.C. Lim who's asking this question. I think what he says was, okay, for refreshing the memory again, what are the 7 aspects for a layperson's mission? I think that's what he's asking. What are the 7 aspects of the mission?
I have already explained, no?
I think he wants to refresh it.
Please explain again the question.
He wants to know what are the 7 aspects for the mission for lay people. I think this was the last part you had mentioned in your Dhamma sharing just now. The last part.
Right. I will tell all the 7. Mata Petti Bharang, treating the parents. Kulejetta Pachainan, treating the elders, respecting the elders of the family. Kulejetta Pachainan, Sannam Sakila Sambhasan, pleasant words, right? Using the pleasant words. Sannam Sakila Sambha, Pesunaya Pahainan, refraining from tale bearing. Machera Vinaya Yusan, reducing the greed, right? By giving. Satcham, we have to tell the truth, telling truth. Koda Bibum, we have to suppress or we have to reduce anger. Satcham Koda Bibum Narang, Mata Petti Bharang, Jantung, Kule Jetta Pachainang, Sannam Sakila Sambhasam, Pesuneya Pahainang, Machera Vinaya Yuttam, Satcham, telling the truth, and Koda Bibum, reducing anger. That is the 7th one. Right?
Professor, there's another question here. Professor Sumanupala, you mentioned that the Sangha is well organized from the time of the Buddha, but it isn't. But isn't it true that there is a schism between the Nikayas and the different sects, Theravada, Mahayana, etc.? Why is that?
Yes, very good question. Because I told you that in order to apply the Buddha's teachings in different contexts, in different societies, in different countries, there should be different ways, right? Therefore, when Buddhism was spread to other countries, right, there were many other aspects. That means, for example, in China, there were Confucianism and Taoism. Then, in order to match with those two religious organizations, Buddhism was presented. And also, when it was introduced to Korea and Japan, there were some other practices, religious practices like Bon ceremony, etc. Then they interpreted the Buddhism in order to match with them. And also, when it was introduced to Thailand, the Thailand society was different from Sri Lanka. No? Like that, Buddhism was introduced to different countries in different ways without violating the fundamental principles. And you see that in Mahayana, their main purpose is to attain Buddhahood. But in Theravada, they are also, but however, Nibbana is the final aim of all Buddhists in the world, right? Through Buddhahood or partial Buddhahood or Arahantship, everyone should attain Nibbana. The Nibbana is the main final aim of Buddhism. But achieving it can be done by following different ways. Therefore, Buddhist order also have different nikayas, so sects, right? But all of them, they are all of their the main aim of all those Buddhist sects is Nibbana. Therefore, we have to consider whether the color is of color of the cow may be color of the cow may be blue or gray or black or white, but the milk is the same. Like that, we have to consider those schisms or Buddhist sects or Mahayana or Theravada, whatever it is, no problem. The paths are different, but the main aim and the fundamentals are same. Okay.
Professor, there's another question here. Professor, don't you think that the Catholic Church and some other Protestant churches are more well organized than Buddhists? There has been proper planning and thought in their missions. Your thoughts on this, Professor?
Yes, it is well organized, but they also have problems. The Buddhism also is well organized, right? But still, it is continuing. But they have problems because they are social, right? The organization is a social institute. Then society is always changing. Then those changes affect the social organizations also. Nothing else. Even in the Christian society, you can read in the history of Christianity how many problems have arisen in the history, right? Even today, there arise many problems. They solve them through their organization. It is human, no? Human beings are involved in these activities. Therefore, everywhere there are problems. But one distinction of Buddhism is all the things in Buddhism are open to the world. They are not hiding. They are not covered by any other organization. All are open, right? That is why Buddha said that Vivato virochati no patichanno. When something is declared open, it is the way, but should not be hide, right? Hidden, right? That is the thing. That in Buddhist order, everything is very famous, right? But in many other organizations, although they have problems, they are not open to the outside world. That may be different. Okay?
Professor, we got one last question for you tonight. This is from Brother Victor. This is not related, I think, to today's topic, but since you said you're willing to discuss any other question, his question is, dear sir, why did Prince Siddhartha not attain enlightenment during his previous birth, born as King Vesantara? He has done extraordinary good karma when he was King Vesantara. Would you like to attempt to answer
Yeah,
the question?
you know that according to Mahayana also, they say the final aim of Buddhism is to become a Buddha, right? Therefore, if someone wishes to become a Buddha, it takes too much time. Therefore, he has to postpone the arahantship or enlightenment. Although they have opportunities, they do not become enlightened until they achieve the final purpose. But in this idea, there is a very important aspect that we should not forget, because as a Bodhisattva Buddha to be, if he spends many years, millions of millions years in the human society, his social service to the humanity is very big. But suppose that if someone achieves final enlightenment in this very life, then it is a short span of life. That means maybe 100 years or 80 years, then finish everything. Therefore, you know, the aspiration of Buddhahood is very important as far as social service is concerned. Therefore, Buddhas think, Bodhisattvas thinks that personally I can attain Nibbana, but it is not great. I have to nurture the other beings also to realize Nibbana in the existences before I become a Buddha. Because after becoming a Buddha, his life also will be finished, right? But you know, that is why in Mahayana, Bodhisattva concept is very popular, because actually Bodhisattvas are very important as far as social service is concerned. But anyway, it is up to people to there is choice, our choice, you know. If we like, we can become arhants and we can become partial Buddhas or fully enlightened Buddhas. And if someone thinks that to do social services while leading a lay life, it is okay, their choice. But however, they should lead a good life without making harm to himself or others. That is Buddhist idea.
Thank you, Professor. I think we've come to the end of all the Q&A this evening, and I think we had a very fruitful discussion. So before we end, let me take this opportunity to thank Professor for taking time off to be with us this evening. And on behalf of the Committee of Management and the monks of the Buddhist Mahavihara, thank you, Professor. And also to our sponsors this evening, thank you very much. And also to those viewers and listeners who are joining us live on Facebook, thank you for joining us, and I hope you had a very enlightening evening with our Professor Sumanapala from Sri Lanka. And I would like to invite Professor to join us to talk about the Buddhist concept of management in future date. Professor, I hope you will oblige. I think that's a very interesting subject for many of us, especially those who are in a career or in a working environment. The Buddhist concept of management, I think, will be quite critical, especially time management and discipline and things like that, commitment, and productivity. So we would like to invite Professor to give a talk on that subject in the near future.
Okay.
With that, we've come to the end of this evening's Dhamma sharing. So with that, have a pleasant evening and Suki Hotu.
Thank you. Okay.